Another thing I was fascinated with this particular piece was the shadows.
I think that is striking thinking about putting together the sort of the banquet that we consume tonight of these dances is that it's a different kind of atmosphere. But we're in the world of much more abstract works on the rest of the program. So could you talk a little bit about how you choose what goes with what?
Just as you said, to create a variation between one piece to the next and one atmosphere to the next, and making sure that there's always a new surprise within the evening. The worst is when you see a program then and it has a monotony to it that, and you always want to have something sparking. So if you don't like the first piece, maybe you like the middle piece, and maybe or appreciate the third piece. So you're always trying to make those sort of differentiations between one piece to the next. But having a new work, you never know what you're going to get. It's like a box of chocolates. And but you take your best bets, and you make sure that, let's say Paco is always more of a lighter piece, and you can bet there's going to be a little chuckle for that. Whereas Gnawa is a great dynamic piece that you can show the whole company off in a really strong way. So those two already are anchors, and you can't go wrong with Kylian. So you just have to hedge your bets.
You've made a choice to not have, that we sort of go right from seeing the men in Paco and into Falling Angels. Can you talk about that sort of gender package?
Well, I'm stealing it from Kylian because he actually put together Saraband and Falling Angels, and we have recently done the combination. Saraband is a piece from him with all men, and then the piece with all women.
This is a question about Falling Angels, the Kylian piece, and she was struck by the assembly of women on stage and wondering about, is there a story of these women's lives that we're seeing with also the complicated music, and that there seems to be maybe some dissonance between the lives of the women and the music we're hearing?
There is a bit of a backstory, but often what's most important is your imagination. How you perceive the piece to be is paramount. But the actual backstory of Falling Angels happened where many of the women at Netherlands Dance Theatre, when Jiri Kylian was choreographing this, were getting pregnant. So there was a lot of then all the waving goodbye and the pulling of the costume and the hormones that were going on too. So the manic behavior of the women during that period in time were sort of put into the piece as well. I think there was like 3 women at that same moment came to say to Kylian that they were pregnant as this piece was getting made. And so he called them his angels. They were the falling angels who were going to wave goodbye to him. And, as a director, you always get connected with your dancers, even from afar. When you're watching a performance, you're emotionally involved with them. So I think it was difficult for him to see his angels falling.
So for you, you know that story because you were there. You danced with the women in 1989. This is a different generation of dancers who may or may not be pregnant. But so do you decide to tell them that kind of oral history of the work, or are you letting them discover who they are in a different kind of way?
I've said it to them, and I think the lady who came to work on the piece, she explained that too. So they know that, and they know the references. And often someone who's teaching a part will give them an image of what that movement resonates, or what that might mean even.
Could you say something sort of more generally about how you're coaching the dancers to work with some really complicated musical scores that we hear this evening?
If a musician comes in and hears the way we count music and the way it's actually counted on through a score, they would shoot us because it's not authentic to the way the score is written often.
But it's also because choreographers are also making the choice sometimes to give us to not be in one-on-one correspondence, but to have a kind of counterpoint.
Often there's a juxtaposition there that consciously do, or sometimes it's just more of a musical phrasing within the body that they want to project.
We're celebrating the 1-month anniversary of The Impossible. The second piece on the program is Alejandro's 13th piece for the company. And I think I want to ask a little bit about the conversation. When you go back into Glenn and you say, okay, so now I need a gun and then a table that's also a wall, and the wall has to do some stuff. Because it's so different from other works you've made for the company in terms of its theatricality and props.
Incredibly different. The Impossible has been for me really the piece where I've put myself really out of my comfort zone. It has been the piece that I've been most maybe afraid of while I was making it. I was trying to go to places where I have never been, and also to places where I have not necessarily seen in dance. It's the first time that I tried to make a storyline, or sort of a storyline. It's the most theatrical work I've made. And certainly it's the first time I put a gun on stage, or a cigar, or blood.
So Glenn, what's it like for you to be mentoring him in this as he's going into new terrain, and maybe new terrain for the company?
I let him go. Actually, there were a ton of ideas that didn't get in the piece. So I wasn't always sure where things were going, if the gun was going to stick, or the table. He had other ideas that didn't happen in the piece, and maybe we saved those for other pieces. So I just let him go and tried not to get too much in his way.
So I'm wondering how it feels for you to be as a choreographer with Kylian and Duato, who have had an influence on you as both a dancer and choreographer, how it feels to be in that company.
I mean, of course, it feels wonderful, but I try not to think about it, honestly, because, I mean, they're masters. There are choreographers that I look up to, and I mean, to be sharing the program with such amazing choreographers is an honor, of course.
How come no bow for the men?
It's a bit of a tease, you know.
Yeah.
They've been in dance belts, and then not to bring them out and like make them bow in the brighter light.
But I think but I think it goes with the character of the piece. You know, it's kind of like to me those men are like dancing for nobody, for themselves. You know, it's like for
I'm
me it's
glad
like we're picking in, you know.
Through it for a little keyhole or something.
Yes. So there is no like,
so there
yes,
shouldn't
I'm
be this
here.
bow?
I've done this for you.
All right.
You know, it's kind of like I did that for myself, and you got to see it. It's great, you know. But it's kind of that feel.
I was in here for dress rehearsal, and so you're in Gnawa, and then you quick put on your sweatshirt and pick up the microphone and start to give notes to the dancers. And so you're having to negotiate being one of them and then the boss of them. And could you just talk a little bit about what that's like for you?
It has become much easier through the years. Of course, it took a learning process for me and for the dancers also to find that fine balance. But I mean, I really don't have a problem with that, and I don't think the dancers either. I also don't feel like their boss at all. I feel sort of like someone that gives the first spark of an idea, you know, and we all do things together. Of course, I give suggestions rather than notes, or, you know, I really don't feel like a boss to them.
I think it's more about the work. You know, every dancer is involved in the work, and it doesn't matter who is watching them, whose eyes are on them. It's more that they're delving into the work.
يا للشام يا مولد الوالد